Sometimes you've just got to put your hands up in the air and say, I mucked up. Sometimes you've got to say, I really mucked up. And sometimes you might even say, I mucked up and it cost me a lot of money. Well, today we're going to discuss these two junipers. One's an Itoigawa and one's, I think it's actually an Eastern Red Cedar. And you're going to find out what mistakes I made, and more importantly, the number one thing you need to do to make sure you don't make the same mistake, because this one is most definitely avoidable, and I feel a bit of a fool, really. I'm also going to be asking for your help on this, and I'm hopefully going to be telling you exactly how we're going to solve the problem for the styling of this, which I've had for over 10 years. I think it makes for interesting viewing. I definitely need your help and advice, so keep watching, be part of the community. Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to a bonsai retreat, and I really thought hard about this particular topic because I was going to do something quite extreme with this Itoigawa Juniper, which I purchased from Watson Bonsai back in 2022, I think. But I held off because then I also looked at this one, which I've had in my garden since 2015. I picked it up, I think, in a nursery, and have really battled with knowing what to do with it. It did get hit with my early hate juniper days, where I tried to cut things, bend things, wire things, jin things, and all in all, do things without having any idea of a basic plan, i.e., you know what I think? The base, the trunk, then form the branches. Do you know what? If I'd known that then, I might well have been in a different position. Now, in my sort of exciting intro, I'm sure there's a few of you going, oh, clickbait. But actually, there is a howling error. This one, less so. This one is just about not applying principles, i.e. not looking at your trunk line, not looking at where your base is, and not defining which branches are going to be what you need for your tree or your design. And I was lost with this one. And 10 years ago, well, actually, I'm not surprised, really. But this one, I could definitely have avoided the mistake, because I only bought this one when I started my channel. And I already knew the key principles to avoid making such a howling mistake. But you know what? We all do it. So what are we going to do about this juniper? Now, many of you will know or recognize that it's featured in a number of videos. One about Deadwood, but one about that dreaded Red Eastern Cedar rust, red cedar rust. And this was one of the ones that certainly had it. So it means it's an Eastern Red Cedar. And it sort of shows its face every couple of years, but it's been clear of it for 2 years now. And I've said to you, I'm not going to throw these things away. I'll hang on to them until they either part this world or I actually turn them into a decent bonsai. Nearly had my eye out then. So what do I need to do? Well, the first thing is identify what is it about this that identifies it as bonsai. How can I make this into something that will make someone else walk in and go, like it? And well, actually, we have to just go straight back to basics, and I think this is when we keep hammering home. Every tree you've got, look at the basics. Have a look at your trunk. So let's have a look at the base first. And straight away we can see from this angle, certainly the front I was planning, which was around there, we've got some swelling here. It's quite a big old base with some old roots. I need to dig in under there and see what's going in there. But the main thing here, it's quite a fat trunk, but there's a lot of features. I mean, look in there. That's got feature. So I don't want to waste it, but we turn it further around and have a look and see, is there a better viewing angle for it? Where we don't see there, we actually get a bit of flare. But then we've got the problem with these horrible bits of deadwood. Come back to that. Bring it further round, potentially here. Although again it widens here, and that's not necessarily a totally bad problem, but here we've got some open roots. So again, it's about looking right around and going, where am I going to get my best viewing front? Now, I think I had some sort of front around here because we've got deadwood out here, deadwood to the back. I was going to do deadwood on this and then try and grow this out. And the first thing I'll say is I'll apologise. I'm going to be very verbose at the moment because I still don't have any clue what I'm going to do with it. So I'm hoping to find the inspiration as I'm chatting with yourselves. So bear with me. First thing I'm going to say is potentially I actually need to be able to ignore some of this deadwood and just see what the tree might look like without that deadwood. Potentially even without that. And see, okay, I'm being distracted. I've been distracted by all this for quite some time. And it may be that it forms part of something, but the main area that I like on this is actually the trunk. It's got a lot of movement in it. And do you know what? I'm going to go away and have a little bit of a fiddle and come back to you. And although there's no definitive answer, sometimes you can't beat having a good old fumble for a few minutes. And that's what I did. I played around with it, took some pictures, until I eventually decided that maybe, just maybe, we could be looking at emphasising. Now let's just ignore a few things to begin with. We'll get rid of that branch because I don't see that as part of it. So let's jam that in the hole. Maybe even cover over those for now. And bearing in mind that we've got this lovely shape, probably difficult to see there, but we've got this line, which I like the look of. And then we wire these branches, maybe get rid of that or bring it down just a little bit. This becomes the new apical region, and with this we wire and create some pads. So we create what I call our classic conical or triangular shape, but what we are able to do is emphasize this trunk line, setting the angles right, seeing this nice base, ignoring this horrible piece here, reducing this, and hopefully trying to build something from this. That's my solution. And as I say, I joke about with having a bit of a fumble, but I spent about 15 minutes here trying to find different angles, and as you can imagine, it's quite tough. But actually, for a piece of material that cost me nothing back in 2015, I think I may finally, after 10 years, have found the solution to this particular juniper. Unlike, unfortunately, well, my more expensive blunder. Because I think, sadly, in this instance, this too, I've been staring at it since I purchased it. But you know, I keep saying, whether you spend £10 or whether you spend, well, £75 I did in this case, it is so important that you look at what it is you're buying. Are you buying yourself a lame duck straight off that's going to require loads of special techniques, loads of work, or in my case, too much work? I don't know. I've got an idea, and I'm going to open it up to yourselves, but let's really have a look and talk about the real issues with this, what initially I thought was a beautiful Itoigawa Juniper. So initially, when you look at this, you've got this lovely bend here, and there's movement in the trunk. There's no taper at all. We've got these, I don't know what these are, Jins, yeah. And there's lots of branching, and you know, for the beginner amongst us, and when I bought this, probably I didn't look at it properly or well enough. What I didn't identify straight away is we've got this trunk with no particular taper, and right now you're looking at it and going, I can't tell the difference or any movement. It might just well be looking at this chopstick because everything is going in the same direction. Fine, we've got these two branches, but the main trunk movement, which is what I keep stressing we need to be looking at when you first look, yes, you're looking at a Nabari, but you've got to look at your trunk to see what are the problems, or in fact, what are the advantages. And as we turn it round, we start to see we get the movement in one plane. It's very, very two-dimensional. And yes, up here we start getting a little bit of three-dimensional movement in different directions, but it's all the way in the top third. We've got a real problem here because actually there you see the issue. It's absolutely straight, and then we have a very, very ugly, I think, bend there, but it's not in any sort of different direction. It's in one plane. So when you look at potential fronts or viewing angles, I find that very, very challenging. But even looking at different opportunities, I thought, well, what could I do that's different? If I can't go upright, maybe an angle. But the angle, doesn't matter what you do with it, that angle still doesn't change that you've got a single plane. Which means if you do find the right position, it's literally going to be a one viewing angle tree. And for me, I don't like that. So I thought, you know, maybe we go and try and put it down at a semi-cascade and bring that down. Take that back up as something up above. I don't know, maybe that would work. But I don't like it. So I'm really crying out for your help. This is one of those trees that I could go quite extreme, because when I started this video, it was actually going to be, should I try an air layer in the second week in October? And I know Peter Chan of Herons certainly done it and says, yeah, do it through winter, it's a bit slower, but right now we've got a 4 to 6 week period where these are going to be pushing out roots. We've got lots of healthy growth. And I thought, looking at this, really, I've got a branch here, right at that point. I think potentially ignoring or removing that branch, and then get rid of this branch, and then whack an air layer right here, and then try and regrow this tree with this branch and this branch. Seems really extreme, but I am at a bit of a loss with this, and even I flinch a little bit the fact I spent £75, because believe it or not, the same time I purchased that one, I bought this one for the same amount of money, and this is a lovely Itoigawa on rock, and this is the one that actually Yella really went to town, did a lot of bending on it, and I think saved it. It was another one that had some issues with some branches, and again, if you want to see the visit with Yella last year, absolutely fantastic up there. And yeah, it's I call this is probably still in its bit of a recovery phase. There's some browning that's definitely on some of these, but I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Potentially could do with going in a bit of a bigger pot. So we've got two extremes. We've got this that I bought, which has made a perfect bonsai, and then we've got, well, I don't know what to do with that. So I'm calling out to you. I know it's difficult, I know it's tough, you get to see only in 2 dimensions, but let me know in the comments really what you might consider doing with that, and whether you think the air layer option is an option at all, or whether maybe I should wait until next year, because there was one other thing I was going to do. I was probably take it the easy option. I was literally going to put wire onto all the branches, and once the wire's on, see what degree of flexibility and movement I've got, and actually wire them out to try and broaden this out in a canopy of some sort, and see, even by creating a little bit of separation between these, let it grow on and see if something comes from it. But it doesn't matter how you look at it. I mean, potentially you remove those ones and those ones, but one-dimensional plane, it's just absolutely awful, and something really, it's actually really avoidable. I'm putting myself up on a pedestal and saying, don't make the same mistake. Find that trunk movement. Don't make it harder before you even get the tree home. Anyway, enough of that. Let me know what you might want to do with that, and should we go and actually finally do something with this one that I've had for 10 years, only cost me nothing, and see if it makes the big difference. Now, this is it's really tough to really get this angle right. This bulge here, it's still there, but I want the movement. The other side doesn't work at all. I've just held this down with a bit of wire. That may well be interesting deadwood. I don't need to remove it yet. I probably am going to eventually. This, I've wired these branches up. These are going to be the ones that are going to make the structure. And this, well, do you know what? I think even as a gin, if you think about it as a gin, I'm not sure. I think if I'm going to be bringing this down, it's going to distract. I'll just take it back for a little bit. And these ones, I can't help feeling they're just too low and too long. So we'll just shorten some of these off a bit. I can do a bit more with those. I can probably take that a bit further. What I wanted to do is to reduce the amount that was coming towards me. Then what we need to do is have a look and see, do I pull this one further down? Then we've got this one. Always listen out with your ears, because that's where you're going to hear the sign, and just look. There's definitely a little bit of sign, and what you're looking for is where the bark is just starting to lift and come away, and you can see it. And the risk is, and you've seen it before, is that if you actually debark right around, you may not necessarily see that you've stripped it, but it's actually completely detached from the living part of the branch, and you actually see the death. And there's a video just up there which shows exactly how and what happens when you do that. But for now, I'm just going to create, I mean, a lot of these have still got to gain more vigor, but there is some health there. You can see I'm going to be able to create pads there, pad there, do something with that later. This has been pulled away probably a bit too much. We'll just bring it back and around. Then do something with the back one here. Really need to think hard about this. If you haven't guessed, I'm actually losing the light. I've done a lot of manipulation. I've reached that point where you could also cause a lot of damage. I think, for now, I'm going to leave it like that. Well, it's been 4 days now. I've popped out 3 or 4 times a day, looked at it, stared at it, and do you know, I've come to the realization that I think I said earlier, so I've done a lot of twisting and bending on those, and I'm very aware of the damage I did to that first juniper last year, which we saw probably 5 or 6 videos ago, where if you get too rough with the fingers, you're just going to end up scuffing off and destroying what is potentially going to be some great foliage. I have created some basic pads, some different levels, and though it may be masked a little bit by the unruly mop of needles, I'm confident that looking down on it, I think we can see a future so long this continues to thrive and be healthy. And you know what, to that end, I was going to think about repotting it, because we could technically do it right now. And I thought, do you know what, this soil is good. It's been in there now for probably about 18 months, I think. 18 months, 2 years maybe. And there's no reason to take it out. Yes, I'd love to try and get that angle exactly right. And that's, I think, what's caused the problem with me, to be fair. I keep seeing this semicircle, this crescent shape, and at different ways I can see the right angle. And that affects how I adjust these pads. Well, actually, they're not so hard that I can't have a bit of a play with them next year. I'm going to hang fire, I'm going to keep it in the soil, I'm going to keep fertilizing it, and I'm going to let and see just how much more growth we can get before I go on to the next stage, which is probably going to be next year, this sort of time, or a month earlier, when I do a repot and actually do some proper pad placement. But what we can do right now is, with the aid of this great big, horrible dental device, I'm not sure it's a dental device, I'm going to start splitting some of these bits of deadwood, and hence it's called a trunk splitter, and then see how much more realism we can get with just the actual splitters and using the pliers. Now, if it doesn't work, in the end, I've said to you, I really want to bring that right down. So let's just see what we can achieve here. Now, a lot of this is very, very dead, so we're not going to get that roll down that we really want. But it'd be nice. I'm going to start trying to join all that down up to create that down to create the shari effect. that I want lower down on this trunk. And so what I do need to do is, with my little Dremel, I'll put my safety glasses on in a minute, trust me. And what I'm looking to do is, one, to get rid of all this old bark off, because there is a little bit of damp stuff in there. I nearly took my fingers off then. You've got to be very careful where your fingers are when you're working with sharp chisels. But I need to get some of the lime sulfur on there as well, and do quite a bit of work. Get this shorter, but as I say, just a little bit more realistic. So I've certainly reduced that down quite a lot. Now, if you can see there, definitely I've also taken a lot of the wood off here. And again, I'm going to say this very, very big lesson. All of these bits of deadwood, I didn't do the initial deadwood preparation properly, well, 7, 8 years ago, when I should have waited till it was live wood so that I could get that skin off and really get it down to the core. Instead of what you're trying to do is chip old bark off. Now, in nature, that actually happens naturally. You get natural weathering happening all through the year. Very difficult to replicate that here. So, only thing left to do really is to just get the blowtorch. And obviously, half the reason I'm doing that is not to cook the live vein, just to try and fry off some of those splinters and stuff I've got, dry out the outside of the wood. Because although most of the main set is actually dry internally, it has got damping outside, and I would, tomorrow, like to put a bit of lime sulfur on to start that preparation and the proper drying out and white that I need to make this more impressive. But definitely, I think certainly reducing this has made this a lot more realistic. I've cooked it up a bit, and I think shortening those off, removing that middle one that was coming straight towards, certainly made a difference. I don't know what you think. I think bringing this back down means that our eyes are concentrated here, and as this growth continues to flourish, which I expect it to do and push out in 2026, then I think I'm going to see greater opportunities to potentially have this whole lot coming down a lot further. But sometimes there's also another thing. Some people might say, well, you should remove all of that and go casso and go for literati or whatever. But the other thing I'm very aware of is I have doubts about the complete health of this. I do want to keep as much foliage on as I can. It's potentially somewhere around there. We may have it coming up towards us. Time will tell. There's no hurry. But certainly we've taken this on to the next stage. I think what we've done, I say we, it's the royal we, is I've at least had an attempt at trying to bring it back into a more tree-like form rather than something without a plan. I have a direction. You may not agree with it, but I'm certainly happy that I've gone that little one step further. Give it a spin. I don't know whether you might see better angles. And just shout out the timing if you do, because that really helps me quite a lot. And again, all your advice is always appreciated. I don't know whether there's something around here. This you can see this bend a lot more than the back side. A lot of this needle growth up here, it does need to flourish. It does need to get stronger. I do like this here. And time will tell. But do you know what? Tell me, did you expect me to go and do that when you started this video? Good or bad? Which only leaves me to one thing left to say. Please don't forget this. Have a good look at the video. When I spin it round, when I look at it, you decide. Maybe it doesn't look as bad as I think. I mean, I looked back over the year yesterday, and actually, Well, maybe it doesn't look as bad like that. And yes, it would only have one angle that you could view it from. With these branches spread out a bit more, let it grow on, grow bigger maybe. It could be unique and a feature in its own right. Perhaps I've been a bit hard on myself. You let me know in the comments. Your opinion's always appreciated. And one final thing. I was asked very, very recently about broadleaf evergreens, likes of holly, bay, privet, all those sort of things that generally got a nice flat leaf and keep them on all the way through the winter, and asked about what am I going to do with them now. And the reality is, well, I tell you what, why don't you watch my next video on Tuesday, and I've got a year-long time-lapse, centres on this Elaeagnus, but we'll tell you all you need to know about, hey, what am I going to do with my broadleaf evergreen now? Many of you probably guessed already. Apart from that, that's a nice reminder about this. Otherwise, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.